Welcome back, everyone. We've got quite a deep dive today. We're going inside Amazon,
Oh, yeah.
specifically their massive project to revamp their entire analytics infrastructure.
Huge undertaking.
We're talking about moving from a traditional on-premise
Yeah.
Oracle data warehouse
Right.
to a completely cloud-native system built on AWS.
That's right. And this shift wasn't just like swapping out, technologies. It was really like a completely new way of thinking about
Right.
how to manage and analyze data on a
Yeah.
on a scale like Amazon's.
At Amazon scale. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we get too far into it, though, I think it's worth just making sure we're all on the same page
Yeah.
about what a data warehouse is. Essentially, it's a central hub
Right?
where companies store and organize all their data. For a company like Amazon, you can imagine the sheer volume of information
Yeah.
that they generate every single day. We're talking customer orders, website clicks, inventory levels,
Absolutely.
you name it.
All of it.
It's an incredible amount of data.
Yeah, and their old system was really struggling to keep up with all of it.
Oh, Ray.
The source material we have actually mentions that
Wow.
even simple queries on large tables would just fail.
Wow.
Because the system was so overloaded. Can you imagine the frustration? Like if you need a critical piece of information
Yeah.
to make a decision and you're completely blocked because the data warehouse just can't handle it.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like an absolute nightmare. It wasn't just performance issues either, right?
Right.
I mean, our sources indicate that engineers were spending hundreds of hours
Hundreds.
each month on just tedious database management tasks.
Just keeping the lights on, yeah.
It sounds like a recipe for burnout, honestly.
Total burnout. And not just that, it was classic. You have all these highly skilled engineers
Right.
who are stuck doing all this manual work instead
Yeah.
of focusing on more innovative things that they could be doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And on top of that, the old system relied on a massive amount of physical hardware, which meant that they were constantly having to play catch up with
Right.
Amazon's growing data demands. It was just not a sustainable system.
Right. So what did Amazon do?
Well, they turned to what they know best.
The cloud.
The cloud, exactly. They built a brand new system
Okay.
called Andes.
Andes.
Andes, and they used AWS services like Amazon S3, Amazon EMR,
Okay.
Amazon Redshift, and Amazon QuickSight.
Okay, so it was not just swapping out one system for another. This is like a fundamental rethink.
It was. They really embraced this new approach to data management called a data lake.
Okay, a data lake.
Data lake.
I mean, it sounds a little bit more refreshing than
Yeah.
a data warehouse. I'll give them that, but
Sure.
what's the difference?
So think of a data warehouse as like a meticulously organized library
Right?
where everything is, neatly categorized and labeled.
Yeah.
A data lake, on the other hand, is more like a vast lake where you can just dump all sorts of data, structured, unstructured, raw, without having to predefine it.
Okay. Define a specific format.
So more flexible, especially when you're dealing with all these different kinds of data.
Exactly. Way more flexible. And because it's built on these cloud services,
Right.
like Amazon S3, it's inherently scalable.
Okay.
You can easily store and process these massive amounts of data
Yeah.
without worrying about physical limitations.
I mean, and speaking of massive amounts of data,
Yeah.
Amazon had some pretty ambitious goals for Andes.
They did.
They wanted unbounded scalability, open systems architecture, and enhanced transparency.
That's right. I mean, they wanted a system that could essentially grow infinitely
Wow.
to handle, whatever amount of data
Right.
they threw at it. Open systems architecture meant building a modular system that could easily integrate with different tools and technologies.
Sort of like Legos, you can snap different pieces together
Exactly. Build what you need.
to create whatever you need. Yeah.
And the enhanced transparency that was all about making the data more accessible and understandable.
Think of it like a really powerful search engine
Okay.
for your company's data, so you can easily find
Right.
what you need and understand where it came from.
Okay, so let's actually talk about the structure of Andes itself. It's got these four main components.
Okay.
We've got the data lake for storage,
Right.
data discovery services, ingestion services,
Right.
and synchronization services.
The data lake, that's the foundation. That's where all the raw data is stored,
Okay.
primarily in Amazon S3, known for its durability and security.
And then we have data discovery services, which is, like you said, that sophisticated search engine for all that data.
Right.
Imagine you need to find a specific piece of information from this massive sea of data.
Yeah,
These services let users pinpoint exactly what they need.
that's right. But it goes even further. It doesn't just help you find the data, it also provides metadata. So it's like information about the data,
Okay.
like the quality of the data, where it came from.
So it's like a librarian who not only helps you find the right book, but also gives you a quick summary and review
Exactly.
before you even check it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the data lake.
Yeah.
And we can find what we need.
Yeah.
How do we get the data into the lake in the first place?
That's where the ingestion services come in.
Okay.
So they handle extracting data from different sources, transforming it
Okay.
as needed, and loading it into the data lake. So think of it as like the intake process.
Okay.
Making sure everything flows in smoothly.
So it's like the data's welcome wagon, make sure it feels right at home in the data lake.
Exactly.
But we're not just dumping data into this lake to sit stagnant, are we?
Yeah.
We need to be able to use it.
Right. That's where the synchronization services come into play.
Okay.
And they make sure that the data in the lake is always in sync
Okay.
with different compute environments where it's being analyzed.
So if someone is using Amazon Redshift, which is a data warehouse built for the cloud,
Right.
to run queries on a data set, the synchronization services ensure that their Redshift cluster has the latest and greatest version of that data.
Exactly. And it's not just like bulk transfers. It's managing these ongoing updates
Right.
and even notifying users if a data set is deleted or something like that.
Okay, so it keeps everything consistent and reliable,
Right.
which is obviously crucial when you're dealing with this amount of data.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that, though,
Yeah.
how did Amazon actually get all their data from their old Oracle system
Right.
into this new Andes architecture? I mean, that's like moving a library from one building to another,
Yeah.
but on a colossal scale.
It was a massive project, no doubt.
Yeah.
But they tackled it strategically. They had a two-phase approach.
Okay.
They had the seeding phase
Okay.
and the transform phase.
Okay, let's unpack those.
Yeah.
What did this seeding phase involve?
So rather than trying to move everything at once, they focused on their most critical data sets first,
Okay.
the ones that they knew would have the biggest impact.
So they planted the seeds for success with the most important data first.
Precisely. And that not only got the ball rolling, but it also created kind of a snowball effect.
Oh.
As more teams saw the benefits of using Andes,
Yeah.
they were eager to get their own data sets migrated over as well.
Smart move.
Yeah.
But while all this initial seeding was happening, they didn't shut down the old system, right?
No. They very cleverly kept both systems running in parallel.
Okay.
And they actually modified their data pipelines.
Wow.
To feed data into both the old Oracle warehouse and the new Andes data lake simultaneously.
That's a really critical detail. It minimizes risk and it allows users to actually test
Exactly.
and validate their processes
Yeah.
on the new system before making a complete switch.
Exactly.
But eventually they had to fully transition to Andes.
Right.
That's where the transform phase comes in.
So that's right.
We were talking about the transform phase where they actually shifted from the old system to this new Andes platform.
Yeah. The seeding phase, that was about getting the data into Andes, but this phase was about actually moving the processing and the analysis work.
Okay, so this is where things get really technical.
Yeah.
We're moving from like Oracle SQL to tools like Amazon Redshift and Amazon EMR. To be honest, those sound kind of intimidating.
They are powerful tools, but Amazon actually made this transition smoother than you might think.
No, really.
Yeah. Remember, one of the core principles of Andes was open systems architecture.
Right.
Meaning it was designed to work with a variety of different tools,
Yeah.
including some that Amazon engineers were already familiar with.
That makes sense. You don't want to force everyone to learn a completely new system overnight.
Exactly. And Amazon Redshift, which is their cloud-based data warehouse, it actually uses a SQL dialect that's very similar to Oracle's.
Okay.
So for a lot of teams, migrating their existing processes wasn't too difficult.
But Amazon didn't stop there, did they? They actually took it a step further to simplify this process.
They did. They used this tool called the AWS Schema Conversion Tool.
Okay.
AWS SCT.
AWS SCT.
Okay. Think of it as like a translator for databases.
Okay.
It helps convert schemas and tables and even code
Wow.
from one platform to another.
So it basically takes care of all that tedious manual work involved in migrating all this data and processing.
Exactly. And our sources actually mention that Amazon worked directly with the AWS SCT team
Wow.
to fine-tune the tool for their specific needs. So they really wanted to make this process as smooth as possible for their engineers.
That's impressive. It shows that they're really committed to making this transition work for everyone.
Yeah.
What about the teams that were using Amazon EMR?
Right.
That's more for like large-scale data processing and analysis, right?
That's right. And for those teams, they actually developed some custom tools
Okay.
to help convert their specific workloads to EMR.
Okay.
Again, the focus was on minimizing manual effort and creating a consistent process
Yeah.
across the organization.
Okay. So we've got the data migrated, the processes are running on this new platform. But what about the people? We're talking about thousands of employees who need to learn these new systems,
Yeah.
adapt to this whole new way of working.
Yeah.
How did Amazon handle that aspect?
Yeah, that's such a crucial point. You can have like the best technology in the world,
Right.
but if people don't know how to use it, it's not going to be very effective.
Right.
Amazon recognized that, this migration wasn't just about technology. It was about a cultural shift.
So how did they get everyone on board with this new way of doing things? Did they just send out like a company-wide email and say, hey, guess what? Everything's different now.
Not quite.
Okay.
They took a much more strategic approach.
Okay.
They actually established a dedicated program management team to oversee the entire transition.
Okay, so a team of experts to guide everyone through this massive change. Sounds like a good starting point.
Yeah.
What did they actually do?
So their responsibilities included things like setting clear goals, creating these detailed migration plans,
Right.
tracking progress. But most importantly, I think they really focused on providing extensive training and support
Okay.
to users throughout the organization.
That makes sense. You can't just throw people into the deep end and expect them to figure everything out on their own.
Exactly. And remember, we're not just talking about like a small group of users here.
Right.
This is analysts, engineers, scientists, data producers, data consumers, just a huge mix of people with different skill sets
Right.
and levels of technical expertise.
So how did they make sure that everyone had the support they needed to succeed? I mean, that sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It was. But they were very smart about it. They started by identifying what they called power users.
Power user.
Yeah. So these were the people who are like really heavily reliant on the data warehouse.
Okay.
And would be most affected by this change.
So focus on the folks that are going to be using this system the most.
Yeah.
And let them kind of help guide others.
Exactly. And they provided these power users with really intensive training, hands-on workshops, dedicated support channels. Essentially, they created this team of Andes experts.
Like training the trainers, get them up to speed, and then let them spread that knowledge.
Exactly. And the program management team also recognized that a one-size-fits-all approach wasn't going to work.
Right.
They actually divided users into different groups.
Okay.
Based on their roles and how they use data.
Okay.
So this way they could create very targeted training plans and resources.
That's a great example of tailoring that support to fit individual needs.
Right. It's all about meeting people where they are and making sure that they have the tools to be successful. And throughout this process, the program management team really made communication a top priority.
Okay.
They were constantly sharing updates, addressing concerns, gathering feedback from users.
Okay, so it was a very collaborative and transparent approach
Absolutely.
to change management.
And the results really speak for themselves. I mean, they managed to get thousands of employees on board with this new system and really unlock this whole new level of data-driven decision-making.
Okay, so they put in the work to get everyone using Andes.
Yeah.
But did all this effort actually pay off? Did Amazon achieve the results they were hoping for?
It did.
So they put in the work to get everyone using Andes.
Yeah.
But did all this effort actually pay off? Did Amazon achieve the results they were hoping for?
It did. The results of this transition were really impressive.
Oh, really?
One of the most immediate benefits was cost reduction.
Okay.
Moving to AWS allowed them to ditch those expensive Oracle licenses and all that specialized hardware they needed for their on-premise system.
I bet the finance department was thrilled about that.
Yeah, they were probably pretty happy about that.
But saving money wasn't the only goal, right? I mean, their old system was really struggling to keep up with their data demands.
Yeah.
Did Andy solve that problem?
It did remember how even simple queries could fail on the old system.
Yeah.
Andes was built for scalability, meaning it can handle these massive amounts of data and these complex queries without breaking a sweat.
So no more bottlenecks, no more waiting forever for reports. Teams could finally access the information they needed without any limitations.
Exactly. And this improved agility led to faster decision-making across the company. So instead of waiting days or even weeks for data insights, teams could get the information they needed in near real time, which allowed them to react much quicker to changing market trends or customer needs.
It's like the difference between sending a message by carrier pigeon
Yeah.
and sending an instant message.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about a speed boost.
Huge speed boost.
But what about security? I mean, didn't moving all this data to the cloud raise some concerns about keeping it safe?
That's a common concern, but cloud providers like AWS, they actually invest heavily in security, often exceeding what most companies can achieve on their own.
With their own on-premise data center.
Yeah. So by moving to Andes, Amazon essentially gained like a world-class security infrastructure.
Wow.
Without having to build it themselves.
That's huge.
Yeah.
There's another important benefit, I think, that often gets overlooked.
What's that?
And that's decentralization.
Oh, yeah.
So break that down for me.
Okay, so in their old system, a centralized IT team had to manage all the hardware and allocate resources to different business units.
Right.
Which could be a real bottleneck.
It sounds like trying to manage traffic through a single lane tunnel during rush hour.
That's a good analogy.
That's fun.
Yeah. With Andes, each team was given the ability to manage their own compute resources.
Okay.
And they could tailor their infrastructure to their specific needs.
So it gave teams more autonomy and flexibility.
Exactly. And this decentralization also brought about greater consistency.
Okay.
So the program management team, they created these pre-configured templates. That standardized the deployment of Andes components across the organization. So instead of every team having like a slightly different setup, everyone was using the same secure and optimized configuration.
So it's like having a set of blueprints that ensures everything is built to the same specifications.
Exactly.
No more snowflakes.
No more snowflakes.
And speaking of things that are well-defined,
Yeah.
didn't Andes also improve transparency around data?
Yeah, it did.
I remember that was one of their key goals.
It was. And remember how the old system made it really difficult to track down specific data or understand where it came from? Andes addressed that with its data discovery services and the metadata management capabilities.
So now instead of digging through mountains of data trying to figure out what's what, users can easily find the data they need, see its origins, and track its journey through the system.
Exactly. And this increased transparency led to better data quality, increased accountability, and faster resolution of any data-related issues.
It sounds like Andes was a resounding success.
It really was.
They achieved all their major objectives, reduced costs, improved scalability and performance, enhanced security, greater agility, and increased transparency.
That's right. It's a great example of how even these really complex technological transitions can be successful with careful planning and execution.
Yeah.
They didn't just focus on the technology, they understood the importance of bringing people along on that journey. Providing training, creating a culture that embraces this new data-driven approach.
It's a valuable lesson for any organization that's looking to leverage data more effectively.
Yeah.
You can't just throw technology at the problem and expect it to magically solve everything.
Exactly.
You need to invest in the people and the processes as well.
Well said. And as we move into an increasingly data-driven world, the ability to manage and analyze data effectively, that's going to be essential for any organization that wants to stay ahead of the curve.
That's a really important thought for all of us to keep in mind.
Yeah.
As you reflect on Amazon's transformation, we leave you with this. What data-driven opportunities might you be overlooking in your own work or in your own organization?
Yeah.
What could you achieve if you had the right tools, the right infrastructure, and the right mindset to unlock the full potential of your data?
That's something to think about.
That's something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Amazon's analytics revolution.